Who wants to be the next Italian wine ambassador? Join an exclusive network of 400 Italian wine ambassadors across 48 countries. Vinitaly International Academy is coming to Chicago on October 19th to 21st, and to Almaty, Kazakhstan from November 16th to 18th. Don't miss out. Register now at vinitaly.com.
Welcome to Masterclass US Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the US market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests at the end of each episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us each week to learn more about the US market. Hello, welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market. Today, I am thrilled to welcome back to the Italian Wine Podcast, Jeremy Hart, for part 3 of our 3-part series on-premise trends in Italian wine in the U.S. market with Jeremy and his data from Somm.ai. Welcome back to the show again, Jeremy. We've made it to part 3.
Awesome. Pleasure. Very nice to be back.
Of course. So for our third interview and the last interview in this 3-part series, we're going to talk about a topic everyone loves to hate in our industry, but is very important to address: non-alcoholic wines. I actually saw a headline earlier this week in Fortune that the non-alcoholic market is now valued at $565 million. So clearly it's a category that's not going away that we need to understand and pay attention to, including in restaurants in the U.S. market. So Jeremy, as we get started, tell us a little bit more about the methodology of measuring non-alcoholic wines through Somm.ai, because obviously you're traditionally known for calculating wine placements. So talk to us just a bit about how you are measuring non-alcoholic wine in the U.S. market and in restaurants.
Yeah, so we target menus, and in the process of targeting menus, we typically use AI to focus on brands, SKUs. We have an archive in our big database to understand it. Like if it's this wine that we identify, it could be anything from like Hall, Merlot, and Napa, or wherever it might be, right? To know all the attributes of those things. So that's traditionally how we chop up information. We also have an ability to do text search, right? So we can, one, track non-alcoholic brands, whether they be wine brands or spirit brands. And then we can also do text search. So if we want to look at non-alcoholic or non-alc, or mocktail, or any of those kind of things that you might find on a menu to indicate that they're non-alcoholic, we can track those as well.
Oh, very cool. So obviously this is becoming a lot more statistically significant, these trends and categories. So, for today's episode and part 3 of our series, Jeremy, our 3 key takeaways are: number 1, what is happening in non-alcoholic wine in U.S. restaurants? What are we seeing in this space? So just where is the category today? Number 2, are there any regional pockets or areas of growth in non-alcoholic wine in the U.S. market? And finally, what does the future look like? Let's look at our crystal ball and try to make some predictions of future of the non-alcoholic wine and beverage category. So for starters, tell us a little bit about the growth. We're here in August 2024. What's been going on in the last few years in the non-alcoholic category in restaurants in the U.S. market?
Yeah, so if we go back and let's say, 30 months ago, basically the beginning of 2022. So for non-alcoholic on a wine list, there's about 350 accounts that would list that on their menu, and about the same amount of placements. So essentially every place that was listing it, they were listing it with a 1, right? They weren't doing multiple placements with it. You jump to today, and we're looking at about 1,600 to 1,800 accounts are listing it with about 2,200 to 2,400 placements, okay, for non-alcoholic, and that's on a wine list. So if you want to look at that as far as a growth number, you're about 237% increase for non-alc in the last 2.5 years. So substantial, right?
Wow, extremely substantial. Absolutely. Yeah. And are you seeing that growth more in terms of mocktails, beer, wine? Are you breaking it down by category, or?
We can do both, and we do both. Traditionally, I look at wine menus and spirits menus kind of separate. We have 2 platforms for each. And so the way in which I chopped this up was first looking at wine menus. So targeting across wine menus, we're talking about 50,000 accounts, right? On the spirits menus, we target more accounts, or about 54,000. The interesting thing was, 30 months ago, you're looking at basically the beginning of 2022. As far as mocktails, there was about 189 accounts that listed mocktail on their menu. Okay. Today there's about 2,100.
Wow.
And so the growth in just mocktail is up 863% in the last 2.5 years.
Incredible. Wow. So that's huge.
It's huge. And besides that, there's basically about 3,200 placements, right? So that means that every account you can kind of say is carrying, about 1.5, right? So like basically most accounts either probably kind of mention two, right? So they're given options even in mocktail. It's not just like a one little standalone thing that they'll list, right? And same thing with a non-alcoholic and non-alc. Within those categories, we're looking at almost 4,000 accounts on spirits menus with about 6,700 placements. So it's a very real category. People really need to pay attention. And the big thing is with all of this, to me, I still want booze to do well. I want the category of booze to do well.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
That's fine too. They're still buying something, right? And these have become really nice profit centers for accounts. They can make great profits on these things. So I think getting behind it is totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also, you have to think about an occasion in which people are drinking a non-alcoholic, right? I did an interview earlier this year with NRA Toyola from Mio Netto when they launched their non-alcoholic Mio Netto Prosecco. And what we spoke a lot about was occasion-based drinking. I might on Monday and Tuesday say, I'm not drinking alcohol because it's the beginning of the week and I want to be clear-headed. I've got a lot to do at work. So I will spend $10 or $12 on a non-alcoholic beer or mocktail at a restaurant as opposed to $0 on a glass of water, right? It's still increasing the bottom line for that restaurant because it's money that maybe wouldn't have been spent otherwise. And at the same time, my guest or who I'm at the table with could order a glass of wine. So I think that, just because you're offering mocktails or non-alcoholic doesn't necessarily mean it's taking away from your alcohol sales, but I think it's just bringing more people to the table in a different way and ultimately for the restaurant, likely increasing your check average.
Yeah, I think it's a really smart play for restaurants to get behind. I think, this is, I don't know when this would happen, but it would be really interesting to go to a non-alcoholic wine dinner, right? Like, who knows? If people are there for whatever it might be, food, whatever, that might not be a priority to them, but having something in front of them to make them feel more comfortable and you can make great money on it, why wouldn't you do it?
Absolutely, for sure. So, Jeremy, let's talk a little bit more about where we're seeing this incredible growth. Are there any pockets or cities where this is most pronounced, or is you really just seeing it nationwide? Talk to us a little bit more about the data.
All right. So as far as the cities that are doing it the most, obviously Chicago. It's kind of the traditional ones you see. One of the ones that stood out, and we did this in the last one too, is Portland. Portland just seems to be a trailblazer. It's so unusual to me. Dallas is very much in the mix. Yeah, Texas really has kind of gotten behind it. I'm based here, so I see it. Sacramento is very much a player in the category for the size of what they do. I think it's impressive. Boston's in there, which is very surprising. That's one of those. It's like if you see New Orleans in the top 20, you're like, what's going on? And then even Vegas is even playing in here. So it's also the places that, are historically famous for drinking,
New Orleans. Yeah, that is surprising because the reputation of that market. For those of our listeners who haven't been to New Orleans, it's a very boozy city, lots of partying, Mardi Gras, etc. So to hear that that market's on the rise for non-alcoholic is interesting, and I think speaks to the point we were making earlier that it's about bringing more people to the table, and there's plenty of people out there that might be going on a bachelorette party or going to a wedding that don't drink because they're pregnant or they stop drinking or whatever other reason, but they're still out there socializing and looking for a way to partake in the occasion.
Yeah, and I think that like wellness has gone up, right? Another thing that, is I'm not going to find in my data, but I can probably contribute to it is, and I don't know if this is even going to, occur to Italians at all, but Ozempic. You can't drink on Ozempic, and that's like the new diet fad of America.
That. You can't drink on Ozempic. Good to know.
Yeah, so I think that that's kind of an interesting thing. I'm sure that has to be a reason for some of it. And so it's as popular it is now to people to use Ozempic in America. And so I used to be worried of these trends. I'm not so much anymore. I know that drinking's here to stay, so I don't worry about that as much. But
Drinking's here to stay. We heard it here
Seriously,
first.
that's
It's here
everywhere.
to stay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think, it's a resilient industry. It's gone through lots of ups and downs. I don't know that I'd call non-alcoholic a trend anymore. I think we're seeing some real lasting power in the category, but at the same time, I don't think it's taking away necessarily from alcohol. I think again, it's bringing more people to the table in a different way.
Yeah, and I think that's the next piece, right? Or is to get the people that were the never drinkers, right? Because if you like wine without alcohol in it, I'm sure once you taste something very complex,
Mhm.
it's a nice little gateway to get them there eventually. So
That's a great point, Jeremy. I mean, we can look at non-alcoholics as gateway products or on-ramp products for consumers and introducing them to the space. Are you seeing any products out there, any placements that you think are particularly interesting for the Italian wine category?
I need to dig into that a little bit more. Most of the time, when I look at the non-alcoholic stuff, the rise of non-alcoholic prosecco, I think, is going to be massive. It fits the bill. There's been a whole
Hmm.
category that has done extremely well with sparkling apple juice, right? So, like, if someone can
Hmm.
get something that actually tastes nice, and it's something that they're used to, flavor profile wise, I think that they're really. I think it's gonna go very, very well. I'm curious to see, on how much people lean into it, but we'll see where it goes. But I think sparkling is going to be key for non-alcoholic, at least in the beginning.
I think that's a really relevant prediction, especially, sparkling wine's so occasion driven, right? And we're talking about occasions in which people are getting together for parties and celebrations, etc. So having that non-alcoholic option and replacing the Martinellis, I think is for sure a good opportunity.
You know, what was something really wild, and this is outside of data, but just something I noticed last year in the U.S. was I was at Target of all places, and there was end caps. The month of December, and definitely the week before New Year's Eve of non-alcoholic. And they had it from seltzers to wine to
Wow.
end caps and a major grocer of oddball merchandise from clothing to everything. It's not even just a grocery store. So it shocked me because I never thought I would see that in the U.S. as prevalent as to give that prize space to that. And I was just like, wow, that's real. That's very real. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Super, super real. So, any other thoughts based on the data that you're seeing about the non-alcoholic category for restaurants? Do you predict any trends or movements in the space based on what you're seeing in the data from Somm.ai?
I think just continued growth. I think that there's a whole generation behind this that likes to see it. They're not afraid of new things, they lean towards them. So I think that this is going to be pretty well embraced. And I think wellness is not going away either in the US. I think people really got a nice little vibe going right now as far as, a new way of living, and this definitely caters to that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe Ozempic's going away, but wellness is not. We can hope at least. Yeah. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much again for joining me on this three-part series talking about Italian wine and non-alcoholic wine in the on-premise in the US market. We learned so much throughout this series, as we always do from you. So thank you for being so generous. Do you want to talk to the listeners just a little bit more as we conclude this series about Somm.ai and how they can get in touch with you and how they can potentially work with you as well?
yeah, certainly. So find me on LinkedIn, Jeremy Hart. You'll see me on there. You'll see a lot of data and little cut out pieces of things I'm finding in the data. I always like to talk about on there. But yeah, reach out. I'd love to work with everybody. We have non-alcoholic customers to importers to wholesalers to spirit companies to major companies, you name it. We help everybody. So
Yeah, and I know firsthand. I have been working with you, Jeremy, recently, and I have to say, I never met someone in your partner that responds quicker than Jeremy does when you need a data pull. So, it pretty remarkable. And talk to us, a little bit about how it works. Is it a monthly subscription? I mean, how does your data set
yeah,
work?
so we're monthly subscription for our clients. It varies upon the size of the company. We have some kind of standard pricing, but we don't cap seats. So we want to have all you can eat, and so we cater to that to the size of the company. And so unlimited training, we also do all kinds of specialty reports, as you know. Like, I love it. When I get questions, like, I geek out. I want to know what people are thinking. And if someone wants to do some oddball thing and, look at something, to me, it's incredibly interesting. And the really funny thing is, from my point of view, I get to see when a lot of companies think the same at the same time. 2.5 years ago, I got a request from I think 4 different companies that all wanted to know the market for Oregon Chardonnay in 3 weeks.
Huh.
Like all of them did at the same time.
You're on top of trends then,
Yeah,
clearly.
I was just all like, this is so cool.
Anything right now people are asking for that has been kind of surprising?
The big thing that everyone's trying to correlate right now, and this is, I've had it from a few companies, is everyone's trying to understand, is there any correlation with pricing to dips in growth for wine, right? Because right now, wine is somewhat down, right? But spirits are up. And so, one of the really cool reports I did the other day was correlating between by the glass and cocktail pricing over time. You know what I mean? To see if one of them a jump ahead of the other one, or that was the reason why people reached for the other. And so those kinds of things are super duper interesting, and they're actually exactly on par. And so it was all of them were within a 5 cent to 10 cent range over time. But that's the kind of stuff you can see with data. So we did one on Spritz the other day with you. Yeah. So there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can see with this stuff, what's going on with it, what's popular. And I never really knew the value of what that was, because when you're on the streets as a salesperson, you see it firsthand. So you don't really kind of truly understand it, but also your world's as big as your account base, right? When you look at it macroly across the US or by city or whatever, it gets really, really interesting. Because you can see how trends pop here and then they go there and so on and so forth. So yeah, I love it. I truly love it.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you again, Jeremy, for being here with us on the Time Wine Podcast. Again, we really appreciate it. It was so much fun doing this 3-part series with you, and we'll have to do it again soon. The data is always changing, so let's make sure we do this again sooner rather than later.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.